one player every Premier League club needs to sell now. Not tomorrow, right now. And we're starting with Arsenal. Who are you picking?
Albert Sambi Lokonga, Theo. He came from Anderlecht 2 years ago, and he's not quite made it through to the first 11. He's not starting, and the reason being, Theo, I wouldn't sell him permanently. I'd send him out on loan.
You've got it all wrong. It has to be Cedric, the 31-year-old ex-Southampton. He's not good enough, and he doesn't get into that right-back spot ahead of Tomiyasu or Ben White. He needs to go on loan, probably to Fulham, get him gone. Every player, even on the bench, is sticking around for that gold medal, aren't they?
They certainly are, Theo, and there's not a lot of depth to that Arsenal squad, so really, I wouldn't get rid of anyone.
But how much depth is in that Aston Villa team? Because my pick is Morgan Sanson, and he's on 48,000 a week, and he doesn't get a single minute. You're just wondering why they stuck him on a £10 million 4-year contract.
Theo, he does get a single minute. That's all he's got this season. The lad from Marseille, he's not really broken through. Get rid of him.
Yeah, 28 years old. He could probably play somewhere else. He's not got a future at Aston Villa.
Now, there is a future for Jack Stacey, Theo. It's just not at Bournemouth. Now, he came from Luton 4 years ago. He's a right back. And in my view, he's not quite Premier League quality. So, time to move on. His contract ends in a few months.
I'm going for their best player, arguably, this season at times. Jefferson Lerma, the Colombian central midfielder, 28 years old. He's been crucial in the first few games. The problem is, the way he's performing recently is such a drop in the quality that the fans and the club know of him. I think he's going anyway. He's playing like he wants to leave. Get him off the wages. He's one of the highest earners. His contract's up in the summer. And use those wages into bringing someone else in at midfield and help Bournemouth survive.
Brentford, it's Charlie Good, and the reason being he's just not that good, Theo. He came 3 years ago from Northampton.
Just shake my hand. He earns 20,000 a week to sit on the bench and give the occasional, oh, come on, boys, get out there and get a win. Yeah. Imagine that earned you 20k in 7 days.
Theo, he's had 20 appearances in 3 years.
I will be a bench warmer and a motivational speaker in the dressing room for 20,000.
Brighton and Hove Albion, he came from Royal Union. His name is Dennis Undaff, Theo.
What?
Now, I know you might disagree with me here.
No!
He's not had a single Premier League start. I reckon the manager at the club just doesn't rate him that highly.
He's not been given a chance. I don't think that's the right pick.
Why is he not being given a chance?
Good question. But right now, De Zerbi's doing so well at Brighton, I wouldn't change a thing. One thing I would, though, is selling Aaron Connolly, 22 years old. And how many times did we do this video and tell him, get him gone? It's time to go. You've got great youth breaking through with Ivan Ferguson in forward positions. You do not need this guy anymore. Get him to Hull, make it permanent, and that's the end of it. He's got no future at this part of the world.
Chelsea now, and after 5 years, it's goodbye to Jorginho, Theo, who has been a really good servant. Yeah, his contract is up in June 23. He's not getting any older. Time to go.
There's a lot of deadwood at Chelsea. We could have picked quite a few different players. Kante was mentioned a lot, but I've gone for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. He's 33 years old, and the decision to sign him was disgusting. The fact he sits on 160,000 a week, which is more than Kai Havertz, it's appalling. He's one of the top earners, and he doesn't care on the pitch. The only thing he cares about is when he goes to lush restaurants in central London with his family.
Theo, they signed him because they looked to the past, and you can't do that. He once was a great player. He was smashing it for Arsenal, but he isn't anymore. He's lost the hunger. Like you say, his only hunger is for those fancy restaurants.
People love to blame Graham Potter about what's going on at the club, but look at their squad. They've got a bunch of aging guys who don't really care anymore. Yes, they've got experience, but they're just there for the paycheck. There's a lot within that squad that needs changing before you blame the manager.
Crystal Palace, I've gone for a 33-year-old centre-back called James Tompkins, Theo, whose contract ends in 5 months' time. He's gone down the pecking order. He's not getting picked. Time to move on.
Luka Milivojevic. I don't know how he's still a Palace player. 31 years old, holding midfielder. He plays the occasional game, but he's not up to scratch of the Premier League level. So get him sold. If you had a really good midfielder next to Decore, if you had a really good forward instead of Ayew, I think there's a lot of potential at Palace, but there's a lot of deadwood you need to get rid of.
Everton, I've gone for another centre-back, Theo. He's played nearly 200 times for his club. He came from Burnley a few years ago. Michael Keane. He's another guy. He's only 29. I think he's got another good contract somewhere. But he's gone down the pecking order. He's not getting picked. Something is wrong.
This one's crazy for me, and I agree on Michael Keane. Get him loaned out. Do anything to get some of the wages back. Because everyone seems to blame the board about money, but then you've got someone sitting on the bench earning that level of money. It doesn't make sense to me. Get him sold now.
Fulham, I've gone for Nathaniel Chalobah, Theo. I think once played for England. Full of potential, a DM. it just hasn't worked, Theo. He's more of a Watford, more of a championship player, isn't he?
This is such a shame. I've been at his only start in the Premier League this season. About 25 minutes in, he put in a disgusting tackle on a Newcastle player. They didn't expect to have to implement a plan B that day, and it's all thanks to Nathaniel Chalobah. The 28-year-old needs to be sold immediately. Not much worth for his 35k a week that he's cashing in.
Leeds United, I'm looking at a left-back called Junior Firpo, and I know a lot of Leeds fans will agree with me, and he came from FC Barcelona, Theo, and he's just not very good.
I remember when they started him every week, and I constantly was saying, go and invest in a left back.
Yeah.
This guy is not cut for the Prem. I've gone with someone different, who probably is cut for the Prem, but because of his injury status and constant problems, when you're sitting on the second highest earnings at the club, it just doesn't make sense, financially and on the pitch. It's the 29-year-old Patrick Bamford.
Yeah.
Now, at one stage, we were thinking call him up for the England squad. He had so many high aspirations. The problem is he's constantly injured. Sell him and buy a proper striker who's young and hungry and wants to fight for Leeds United.
Leicester City, I've gone with Yannick Vestergaard, Theo, 30 years old, a centre-back. And again, he's just a lad who's not getting game time anymore. Maybe time to move on, drop a division, go somewhere like Denmark and rejuvenate your career.
Well, he doesn't get in the squad, does he? They've decided for other centre-backs like Wout Faes, a couple own goals. But overall, the season, he's been pretty good and got into the Belgium team. He doesn't have a future at the club, and he sits on 70 grand a week, which is the 11th highest earner. It's silly business from Leicester. They should be signing centre-backs that want to play there. They need a Fofana replacement, a proper one. Buy a proper new centre-back and get him gone. In fact, not even that. You can dip into the Championship. I would think Leicester should buy someone like Harry Souttar. He proved at the World Cup that he could pocket the goat.
Liverpool, I've gone for a man who cost 60 million euros from RB Leipzig. It is, of course, Naby Keita, Theo.
Spot on.
He's only played, I think, 79 times for Liverpool. He's not what they expected, is
27 years old now. I remember when he signed. He was meant to be the next big thing. Disgusting amount of wages. I think it's 120 grand a week. You've mentioned Naby Keita. I'm mentioning Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who was also on 120 grand a week. And yes, he's played a few minutes here or there, but he's constantly injured. So it's not good business. Get the wage bill down for FFP and reinvest it into a player, a younger lad, who isn't as injury prone and maybe can break into the first team.
Manchester City, I've gone for a left back whose contract ends in about 5 months, Theo. He's only played about 50 games in 6 years. He's got personal problems, shall we say. I won't say more than that. Benjamin Mendy.
Goodness me, I don't know how he's still a City player. I didn't even know that was an option. But I've gone for someone for a completely different reason. And before I mention his name, you're probably going to roast me. He's a top player, but it doesn't seem like he wants to be there. In a recent interview, he said, I won't hide that my goal in recent years, if something good happens elsewhere, will probably be to move to a new project. That sums it up. The guy's a baller. But if he wants to be spearheading a separate project at an up-and-coming club, he will make the move. He's 28 years old. It's Bernardo Silva.
No.
The Portuguese is brilliant.
No.
It's the way he's speaking, Dad. It's as if he wants to go somewhere else. And if you're speaking like that, you're never going to be 110% for Man City.
Manchester United, I've gone for a man, a centre-back who I've defended over the years, and he's been all right. Came with a heavy price tag. It is, of course, Harry Maguire. Now, this is partly because of his age. 29 years old, Theo. He's slowing down. He never really had that much great pace. And I think Man United have got to be upgrading. And in recent weeks, Theo, he has not been a first choice.
When he was at England at the World Cup squad with a different manager, different regime, he was brilliant. Even in a back four. He proved it in a back four. That's what people doubted him about. It makes me think, if he does say yes to a Barcelona, what could he do there? Be cool. But my Manchester United pick is Dean Henderson. Now, the 25-year-old needs to give up with this imaginary thinking that he's going to be the future of that United goalkeeper position. David De Gea will be there until he starts dropping off because of old age, and then United will go by the next big thing. And when you're 25 and you're wasting years on the bench, you've got to look elsewhere and get regular game time and maximise your career.
Newcastle United, I've gone for a right midfielder called Matt Ritchie, Theo. Now, he's 33 years old. He's been there 7 years. He was at Bournemouth before. At both clubs, he nearly played 200 games. Great servant, but time to move on.
When I look at the Newcastle bench, I wonder if there was more class there, how good would they be in matches like facing Arsenal away, where you're looking for something off the bench? And when they brought on Chris Wood and Jacob Murphy, you're getting zero returns. Jacob Murphy should be sold from Newcastle, not tomorrow, today, tonight. He should be given offers to every club. Send an offer to Lincoln. Anywhere he can possibly go. He's not good enough.
Nottingham Forest, it has to be Emmanuel Dennis out of those 33 people that they signed. Now, he's a Nigerian international, Theo, 25 years old. But if you look back on his career, we all remember signing him in FPL, didn't we, when he was at Watford? He hasn't scored that many goals in his career.
Wasn't given a chance.
I think he's an overrated striker. I don't think he's Premier League quality.
I've picked a Forest player who's 33 years old, and he goes under the name of Harry Arter. The real story behind this is not for me to talk about in a video. It should be written about in a newspaper. They decided when they got promoted from the Championship to the Premier League, one of, I think it was Lamucci's signings after a good time getting Fulham promoted, they gave Harry Arter 40 grand a week. He's 33 years old.
Yeah.
They've given him 40 grand a week. This season, he's been loaned out to Notts County.
Yes.
And he doesn't even get into the first team there. It's called bad business from Nottingham Forest.
Yeah.
This is a disgrace.
Southampton have gone with Mohamed El Yunusi, Theo, who back in the day for Molde, for Celtic, his stats were good. This season, I think it's 17 games, 1 assist. He's just not delivering. I think it's time to drop down a level.
I've picked Lianco, the centre-back who's 25 years old. He's Brazilian. Is he Serbian? I don't know. He is not good enough to play in the Premier League. They need to sell him and start someone else at centre-back. Southampton needs to get rid of so many players, it's crazy. It doesn't surprise me that they're bottom of the Premier League. Orsic was great business, but so many more need to go.
Tottenham Hotspur now, and I'm not going with the obvious choice that everyone's pointed out. I think you will.
I will.
I've gone for Lucas Moura, Theo. He's been a great servant. Over 200 games. He would get a contribution every third game since he came from PSG. But a little bit old now. I wouldn't give him a new contract.
You think my man has royalty, the fact he's still wearing a Tottenham shirt. Emerson Royale. I don't even need to rant. He's just not good enough. You watch him on the ball. I think I've got better ball control. I don't think I'd have him at Bolton, mate. He's not good enough. And in Antonio Conte's system, where the right wing-back role is so crucial, you need someone there like Pedro Porro. The crosses are accurate. They're actually getting to Kane and Son and Kulu. Emerson Royale, it's guesswork when he goes forward.
When you've got a team who's going for Champions League football, or any team in fact, you cannot have a weak link. West Ham United, it's Angelo Ogbonna, and yes, he's still at the club, Theo, age 34. He's been a really good servant in his time. He's too old now. He's not getting game time.
My West Ham pick will shock you, Dad. Get ready to roast me. I'm going with Declan Rice. They need to sell him.
I'm going to roast you now, Theo. Why?
Yeah, in the market, you're going to be looking at around 100 million plus to sell Declan Rice for. Now, that's money that we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Will he go for the same price? We don't know. You hear in his interviews, he wants to leave. He doesn't want to be around. And when a player has a bad attitude about a football club, I don't think it's the right situation. You get him gone and you cash in. And if they do get 120 million pounds for it, imagine how they could reinvest. David Moyes, I would bring in a new manager as well. I think the whole way that club is going, they need to make a lot of changes. And the money and investment they get from Rice would be the first step going forward.
Wolverhampton Wanderers, I'm sorry to say this, but it's Raul Jimenez, Theo, and he's been a wonderful servant. He's the kind of guy for club, for country. He'll get you a goal every 3 games. But then he had that horrible head injury, and since then, he's not been the same player.
He's not been the same player. And the fact he's the top earner, sitting on 100 grand a week. What is that a year, Dad? 3.65 million?
5.2 million pounds.
Why is my math so bad?
It's terrible, Theo.
But my point still stands. He's the top earner at Wolves, and he's still there.
Yeah.
Get him out.
And it's sad, really. I wouldn't use it in that tone, Theo, because back in the day, he was worth that.
Football is a dirty game.
It's
and
brutal.
It's brutal. And if you sit there and waste time and say, oh, it's a beautiful story, we should keep him, we should try him, forget that. Get him out. If Wolves want to be serious about European football, top 10 finish, you need a new striker who's a predator, he's hungry, and he's brutal. Raul Jimenez is not that anymore. He used to be. Sell him and replace him. That's it. Enough of the waffle. Guys, tell us what we got wrong and correct in the comments. I'm going to be down there. The discussion is probably going to be going crazy. Don't roast us too much, Dog Dad. How are you going to do for the rest of the day?
I'm going to go for a beer right now. It's
Really, yeah.
Friday afternoon.
Yeah, go on,
I'm feeling thirsty, Theo. I'm leaving now. See
Are you
ya.
having a beer? Since he's been back, he's been off it. All right, we'll see you on in a bit. Bye-bye.